My wife and two kids fled to Europe because of the full-scale war that started in our home country in February 2022. Due to martial law, men are not allowed to cross the border, so I stayed behind. About 5 months later, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and underwent surgery. I was devastated and depressed. I've been missing my family so much that I went down very quickly. I became broken. I realized that I was losing myself, losing my family, and sought therapy. Things got better, but not for long. In winter 2022, I noticed some changes in my wife's behavior. She became distant and detached. She stopped caring about me, even though I told her directly that I needed her support and care. All my questions about what's going on were met with the assurance that everything was fine and she was just tired. Fast forward to February 2023, my oncologist told me that I had a chance to obtain documents which might allow me to cross the border. I was overjoyed at the thought of finally being able to visit my family, to kiss my wife, to hug my kids, to take them to the seacoast, and to do everything together. However, as I got closer to having my documents ready, my wife seemed to become more distant. No matter what I asked, she always insisted that everything was fine and I had nothing to worry about. Finally, in May 2023, I arrived. My kids were crying and smiling, happy to see me. My wife also seemed happy, but something was off. She didn't even bother cooking dinner, and the house was a mess. On our first night together, there was no intimacy. It was shocking, considering we hadn't seen each other in almost a year. Even the 3 weeks we spent together in September 2022 didn't count. I tried to initiate something, but she was too tired and just wanted to sleep. As the days passed, we hardly had sex at all. There were no kisses, no holding hands, no hugs. I sat down with her and asked if everything was okay between us. Her response was always the same, that everything was fine and she just needed some space. But my suspicions grew as time went on. Yes, we had our tough times in our marriage, where we were both exhausted and only had sex a few times a month, but a whole year and now needing space? A few days later, I noticed some messages from a stranger on her phone, but I couldn't see the context as the screen was locked. She told me it was just one of her new bosses, but I couldn't help but feel worried. The next day, I found out that this new boss had liked her photos on social media. I immediately brought up my concerns about her feelings and who this guy was. She told me she didn't know how she felt about me and that the guy was just a friend. I was heartbroken, but I tried to stay calm. I understood that we had been separated by distance for some time, so I agreed to give her some space, even though I wasn't happy about it. So I spent the whole time feeling anxious, but as I mentioned, I decided to take my family to the seacoast and try to relax. We spent a great week together, talking and drinking a lot, having sex, kissing, everything seemed fine. So here it is, a regular night out with the girls. I felt so worried that night and couldn't sleep. I was thinking about that man and about the fact that my wife had lost her feelings but never communicated that to me while we were in different countries. I opened that person's social media page, and there he was, checked in at the same place where my wife and the other girls were partying. I approached her laptop. We don't have secrets, so I had access via Touch ID, opened a few messengers and found nudes, sexting, and I love you messages with another guy from that so-called boss company. I felt down, my heart was broken. I confronted her that night. She saw in my eyes that I knew. It was hard and I was hurt. Yes, she confessed, but only after I caught her. She thought she had deleted everything. I spent a few more weeks with my kids and her. I was so shocked that I tried to put all the blame on myself, looking for some reasonable explanations. We slept in the same bed, had sex all that time, and I tried to win her back, but she was stone cold. Their affair had been going on for a few months, so while I was getting all the documents, she started a new life behind my back. After I came back to my home country, I started to analyze the situation. I tried to have a conversation with her, but she just asked for more time to figure it out. I suggested going to marriage counseling twice, but she ignored it, as if I never said it. It was her choice, her decision to ruin everything. I lost her forever. I lost myself. She betrayed me while I was battling cancer and needed her the most. I am devastated, ruined, feeling like an unworthy, miserable human being. She tried to blame me for her adultery, but I confronted her and told her to shut up. Why didn't she ever talk to me about her feelings? I never saw it coming. I had thought we were finally happy and could relax after chasing our dreams for so many years. If she had ever told me that she was unhappy, I would have done everything to fix it, or at least tried. But she was dead silent. I believe things like this don't happen overnight. I just don't understand why she never openly communicated her feelings and needs to me. Last summer, I got a paper letter from her expressing her love and longing, counting the days until we could be together. I go through our text messages every night, and I swear I can't believe it was all lies. Where am I now? I am trying hard to start the healing process, but these texts between her and him are just tattooed in my mind, along with the photos she never sent me. The love words she told him and me every single day of her affair. I can't believe how someone who promised to go through this nightmare together just 6 months ago could betray me so harshly. She won't even try to talk about the reasons why and how it happened. She is not remorseful. I talk to my kids every morning and before they go to bed. I love them so much and they love me back. I am just so afraid that they may hate me someday for betraying them and ruining our family. I stay strong for myself and for my kids' sake. I'm thinking about filing for divorce, but I'm not sure. Sure, I am ready now. Maybe I'm just too afraid of the choice I have to make. I still don't understand why my wife didn't divorce me first, and is asking me not to rush things. I'm completely lost and broken. I don't cry anymore because I feel nothing anymore. Her betrayal hurts like hell, as do thoughts about my cancer, which may return if I surrender. OP, what hurts me most is that you will be separated by borders and space. I don't know in which country your soon-to-be ex-wife is with your children. To meet your children, is there a possibility for you to fight for custody? Or a possibility for you to go and live in that country where your children are, so that you can see them more often? You should start your divorce as soon as possible. She is not your wife anymore. She doesn't even care for you, no longer loves you, or anything related to her affection towards you. You lost her to her new boss. Maybe you can report this with the evidence you have to her work, HR department. Also, expose her to her and your family, and show them that while you were battling cancer, she was professing her love and opening her legs to another man, instead of giving support to you. Now let's get into our next story. My wife has had both a physical and emotional affair with a married work colleague since early March. The AP affair partner lives nearby. We've been together for nearly 18 years, have 2 amazing kids, a great house and jobs, and we enjoy the support of our family with no major issues. D-Day was September 4th. I'd been a bit suspicious of some behavioral changes such as increased alcohol consumption and phone use, a gym membership for the first time in years, and lots of new outfits. So rightly or wrongly, I looked at her phone, and I'm glad I did. She was hiding 10 months of WhatsApp chats by keeping them in her archive section to avoid notifications. The AP pursued her from November, and it seems she was flattered by the attention. She deleted call records, but stupidly kept every message they had exchanged. In some ways, I think she wanted to get caught. I exported the entire chat that night as evidence, and got all the juicy details. How they video called each other and got each other off. How they snuck into the disabled toilet in the office to have sex, felt each other up in meeting rooms, and hooked up on a business trip in a hotel. How they loved and dreamed about each other, and how they wished they had found each other before they both settled down and had kids. She even spoke to him about the things we were doing as a family, and what my children were up to. The level of detail I've learned has completely messed me up. I decided what I wanted to say to her, then confronted her the next day. First, I asked if there was anything she wanted to tell me. She figured I'd seen a message on her phone, but didn't know the extent of it. She looked me square in the eye and lied, telling me there was someone she had grown close to at work, but that nothing had happened. After 20 to 30 minutes of fishing for the truth, I had to bring out the evidence and quote a few messages. Then it hit her that I knew it all. She was so sorry, didn't want to hurt me, was scared she'd lose her career, and worried about how our kids would be financially impacted, what her friends and family would think, and that I would tell the AP's wife. My initial reaction was that they had to go no contact, with him resigning the next day with no notice period if she had any interest in salvaging our family. She begged, saying that wasn't possible, that it would look odd and raise questions, that she needed handover notes from him as he was the only one who knew how to use a particular work system, and that I couldn't tell his wife because she could get her sacked for revenge. I stupidly conceded on the points raised for nearly 3 weeks, giving him time to find another job. It's been excruciating, and I feel if she was finally putting me first, she would have found a way for him to go right away. They've stopped all personal messages and calls since then, and are making sure time in the office together is limited. The AP is leaving the job very soon. She says she wants to work through this with me, but then she would because I've got her over a barrel. I haven't spoken to a divorce lawyer yet, but given the complexity of the situation, I realize now is probably the right time. As far as I was aware, our relationship was pretty solid. We laugh and joke, have fun, rarely argue, etc. Yes, communication could be better, but that's typical of many relationships. For years, I'd always had a higher sex drive than her, which at times caused disagreements due to the frustration of all the chasing being one way. But it wasn't a deal breaker for me, as I loved her to death as my wife and the mother of our children. Clearly, I was just doing something wrong because she couldn't get enough of this guy and was doing things with him she won't entertain with me. I think she has some major issues to work through to justify in her head that all this was okay as long as no one knew or got hurt. I've been a mess and signed off work for 2 weeks. Insomnia, anxiety, increased heart rate, not being able to think about anything else, etc., are all symptoms I'm experiencing. I'm traumatized, but have now started individual therapy as of last Thursday, which is a positive step. The plan is for her to do the same, as well as couples therapy, to understand how and why this happened, even if we can't stay together. My confidence and self-esteem were already a bit dented due to other issues such as my weight increase since COVID. But this has knocked me to a new low. I'm broken, but have been coping by eating better and doing couch to 5K to get fitter for both myself and my kids. My ability to trust another human being with anything meaningful evaporated that day. I could never have foreseen this scenario. I didn't think she was capable of this level of evil, secrets, and lies. I feel I gave up a lot for her, such as having children, which I wouldn't change now, but it wasn't something I was sure about even into my late 20s. I also gave up control of our finances and let her make most of the decisions, thinking I was putting her on a pedestal. But now I see narcissistic traits in her that I may have turned a blind eye to before. Other than speaking to a friend and the therapist, I've bottled this up for 3 weeks. She says she's awoken from a dream fantasy land and would take it all back if she could. I don't trust a word she says. If we're gonna try to work through this, there will be a list of rules that must be followed. For example, I feel her telling our families what's happened would be an action showing she's ready to take some responsibility for all this. I'd then be able to have a wider support network to deal with this. Everyone thinks so highly of her, this will bring her down to earth with a bump. She thought she was untouchable and isn't. One minute I love her and the next I hate her. I don't understand how she could do this to me or our children. I think it's taught me that anyone can be unfaithful given the perfect storm of circumstances. Fidelity sucks. Don't cheat on your partner. Instead, talk to them regularly about your relationship, both the good and the bad. Always explore what you can do better. I hope you're never in my shoes, and my sympathies are with anyone who has to go through this. Any help and advice in dealing with all of this is appreciated. Thank you to everyone who has commented so far. I can clarify a few things. I suffered from insane jealousy and hysterical bonding upon first learning of all this. It's since cooled. We haven't had sex, but have been back in the same bed. I realize now that was way too soon and gives entirely the wrong impression of what my boundaries are. I've had unrestricted access to her phone since D-Day and will set up Find My iPhone tonight. She's already agreed to this. She has already agreed to both individual and couples therapy. The sooner her individual counseling starts, the better. She seems genuinely remorseful, and I may not have conveyed this well enough in the original post. She's repeated I'm sorry, shown lots of crying, and is upset at how much pain she has caused me, etc. While I don't want to give my kids ages, I will say both are under 7, and one is at school. They know nothing of what's gone on. I don't see the need to traumatize them with this right now. Telling them when they are old enough to understand is an option. Sex with the AP was unprotected twice, though I can't be sure it wasn't more often than I'm being told. She had an STI/STD test last week, and we are waiting on the results, which she will show me. She states in the chat to the AP early on that this was the first time she ever strayed. While, of course, I can't be sure, I do think this is likely the case. I agree with the general consensus that she has yet to face any repercussions, such as telling our family or the AP's wife. These are a must for any chance of reconciliation. I am not set on either reconciliation or divorce. I am open to this going either way, but need to see actions rather than words from her, with me dictating the narrative from here on in. The thing I need ASAP is no contact with the AP, and I have stressed this to her. She earns double what I do. I don't want her to lose her job via gross misconduct, as it could make employment difficult going forward and directly impact my children's well-being. Rightly or wrongly, my stance was that she leaves the job of her own accord once she's found something else and get him to go ASAP, which he has agreed to. A date is agreed, but I won't share it here. Update 2? Thanks for all the advice and comments. It's given me some clarity around all of this. The AP has given notice to their employer, so we are moving closer to no contact. I am making sure I see evidence of this. Also, I spoke to her in a calm and concise manner last night, discussing her need to show accountability and responsibility through actions, not just words. She can see that I have removed the emotion from the situation as much as possible, and I am no longer under her spell. It scared her. She can see that I am now taking the lead on things, and she won't have control of what happens next. I am working on my list of musts, and if she's not on board with every request, then there will be no chance of reconciliation. She has already verbally agreed to tell our families in my presence if I want this. We are sleeping in separate beds. I have made it clear to her that I need to show her my boundaries right now. If I need to go nuclear, I can and will, but I am keeping that powder dry for now, as I don't want to hurt my kids. I agree that telling the AP's wife must happen, and the news would be best coming from my wife. However, doing so right now potentially shoots me in the foot if my wife loses her job due to revenge and then can't pay me child maintenance. We also have an expensive mortgage and could struggle to keep up payments until the house is sold in the scenario of a divorce. A post-nuptial agreement is a good idea if reconciliation is an option. I will look into it. We are also looking into individual therapy for her as a priority, as both she and I need to understand how she was capable of this. Regardless of divorce or reconciliation, I think she has some narcissistic qualities, and I would like her to explore that. I am keeping all my options open while studying how she responds to what I need to happen. Right now, she is showing regret and remorse through emotions and body language, rather than just words. I no longer give any validity to her words. I plan to read a couple of the articles and books that have been suggested. I also beat my best 5K time today. OP, go see a lawyer. Tell the truth to your families quickly. And please tell the wife of the AP. She deserves to know with whom she is married. She deserves to have the agency to choose whether she wants to leave or not, whether she wants to consent, which has been stolen like yours, to have sex with that person or not. Do it for her, please. Tell her all the details you know, because every detail matters. I honestly don't think you should reconcile. Her first choice was to choose her job over you, over your safety, your mental health. Also, the length of the betrayal is ugly. See how she acts, and maybe change your mindset if you really think that the relationship deserves another try. But right now, convince yourself it's over. She has to convince you of the opposite, and not with words, but with actions. Her words mean nothing.